This Saturday night, January 22nd in Anaheim, California, the trilogy is going down in the co-main event of UFC 270. Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo for the flyweight championship of the world. What's going on, everybody? My name is David Hanson, and I'm going to be breaking it all down for you tonight. Now, this fight is very special because this is going to be the first time in UFC history that a trilogy fight has been fought back to back to back. Even if you go back and you look at all of the great trilogies in the history of the UFC, you have Matt Hughes versus GSP, you have McGregor versus Poirier, you got DC versus Stipe, you got Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture. None of those have been fought back to back to back. And this is going to be the first time this Saturday night when Brandon Moreno, the champion, squares off against Deiveson Figueiredo, the number one contender. And this is going to be a very interesting fight because the two first fights, the first fight and the second fight, could not have been more different. The first fight ended in a draw, a majority draw. The second fight, Brandon Moreno dominated Deiveson Figueiredo. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into it right now, and we're going to go ahead and break this down. So now, let's go ahead and pull up the stats and look at it. Let's go to the tail of the tape. Brandon Moreno, 19-5-2. Deiveson Figueiredo, 22-1. The average fight time for Brandon Moreno is 13 minutes, 59 seconds. Deiveson Figueiredo has an average fight time of only 10 minutes and 35 seconds. That's because he's out there finishing people most of the time. 2 inches in height goes to Moreno. They're both going to be at the scale at 125 pounds or less to hit the championship limit so they can both be eligible for this title fight. And Moreno is also going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Now, the big difference is going to be the cardio. Will Deiveson Figueiredo be able to hold back and manage his cardio throughout all 5 rounds? If you go and you look at the first fight, Deiveson Figueiredo went out there like a monster in the first round and tried to take Brandon Moreno's head off. And when he found out that it wasn't going to work, he was in serious trouble. But a lot of people do think that he won that fight. But because of a point deduction, due to an eye poke and a groin shot, it ended up being a majority draw. Now, when you look at the numbers, a lot of them are very similar. They have similar strikes landed per minute. Figueiredo has a better accuracy when it comes to striking, but Moreno's got better defense. Figueiredo typically goes in there and he likes to walk forward with his hands down and just throw hammers out there and try to take his opponents out. And if he doesn't knock his opponents out, he's jumping on the submission to finish it that way. And, you know, if you're looking at wrestling and the grappling, Brandon Moreno is a much better wrestler. Now, grappling-wise, I don't know tit for tat if they, how much better Brandon Moreno would be, especially if you look down here at this stat right here. Deiveson Figueiredo does average 2.1 submissions per 15 minutes, where Brandon Moreno only averages 0.8. Now, his takedown defense is significantly higher at 65 over 58, which is pretty good. Brandon Moreno does not get taken down a lot. And if you go and look at the first fight, let's go ahead and look at the stats of the first fight. As you see, they went all 5 rounds. The referee, Jason Herzog, you can see the scorecards here. Sal D'Amato had it 47-47. Junichiro Kamijo had it 47-47. And Derek Clearly had it 46-48 for Figueiredo. And if you're looking at the numbers, this was a very close fight by the numbers. And due to the point deduction, that's really what costed Deiveson Figueiredo he didn't lose the belt by any means, because it didn't change hands due to the fact that it was a draw. But With that being said, it couldn't be settled on a draw. They had to run it back. And with Brandon Moreno's fight IQ and knowledge of knowing what Figueiredo brought to the table, basically, knowing that he could take Figueiredo's punches and he could just wear him out and take over in the later rounds. Now, if you look at the numbers, it was even in the first round of strike-wise, 28 of 55 and 28 of 55, both landing 50% of their strikes. And so first round was even though Deiveson Figueiredo did seem to kind of bully Brandon Moreno around, the strikes did pose even. I had Figueiredo winning that round, but nonetheless, Deiveson Figueiredo also outstruck Moreno in the second round. But if you go back and you watch that fight, you can start to see that when in the second round, when Deiveson Figueiredo came out, he was not the same as in the first round. He had a little bit of a rest, but after that first minute of that second round, he started to slow down significantly. The third round is where that eye poke happened, and then the groin shot. That's where the point was taken in this third round right here. Brandon Moreno did outland him, but that's where the point was taken in the third round, and so that's where things kind of started to sway. Figueiredo started to get tired. He started to gas out. Brandon Moreno started to take over in the fourth round, landing 2 takedowns, outstriking Figueiredo. And Figueiredo coming back in the fifth round ended up making it a draw in the end of the day due to the point deduction. But in the second fight, it could not have been it was a completely different story. Brandon Moreno went out there and completely dominated Deiveson Figueiredo. Deiveson Figueiredo learned from the first fight that Brandon Moreno was not going to go away. And so he came out with a little bit more of a reserved approach, knowing that he wasn't going to be able to throw caution to the wind and get Moreno out of there. He knew Moreno was going to be still in that fight in the later rounds. But it didn't matter. Moreno was perfect in that fight. He came out, dropped Figueiredo with a jab, and it was such a slick jab. Moreno's got such a nice jab. It's not like a square jab where he throws right down the center line. The jab's kind of like more of a sideways jab where he kind of snaps it out sideways, and it's super quick. But he ended up dropping Figueiredo with that jab in the first round, and that was kind of the turn of the tide. Ended up getting the rear naked choke submission in the third round, and just really outclassed Figueiredo. Now, in this third fight, Figueiredo, he's changed camps. He has moved to Arizona. He has been training at Fight Ready with the likes of Henry Cejudo. Now, if you go back and you look at a lot of the fighters that had a bad fight and they decided to change camps due to them thinking that maybe that would benefit them, it typically does not work out for the better. Now, in this situation, we don't know. Henry Cejudo, I'm sure training with Henry Cejudo, that has to be great for somebody of Figueiredo's stature in the fight game. But I really think that Moreno's got Figueiredo's number. The way he came out and just dominated him in the second fight just showed, I mean, both of these guys, they have each other's respect. And I don't think that Figueiredo is going to be able to get into Moreno's head. I think Moreno is very confident coming into this fight. Tonight was the press conference. We got to see the two champions go at it. Not go at it, but we got to see Brandon Moreno and Deiveson Figueiredo exchange verbal blows back and forth. Brandon Moreno was super respectful. Deiveson Figueiredo, it almost kind of looked like he put on kind of like a shtick. He ended up fist bumping him, and everything was all right. But you know, he was kind of acting weird. Brandon Moreno was telling him like, "Hey, you're a nice guy. You know, you don't have to put on this act." And, you know, maybe it was being an act, but nonetheless, you can't really take a lot of things from the press conferences. You can't really take a lot of things from sparring footages. You can't really take a lot of things from things that are being said online. What really counts is when these two fighters go into the cage and they lock the door on Saturday night. And I believe that Brandon Moreno is going to get it done again. I do think that it's going to be a longer fight than the second one. I don't think that Moreno's going to be able to get Figueiredo out of there. I think it's going to go a little bit later. I think if it doesn't go to a decision, I think Moreno's most likely going to get it done in the later portion of this fight in the championship rounds, probably by a 4th round TKO or submission, I would have to say. I think it's a great fight. Very high stakes. I mean, if Figueiredo were to win this fight, would they run it back and do the 4th fight? I mean, that would be big news. That would definitely be the first time that happened in the UFC history. And would they run it right back and do it back to back to back to back? We will have to see. But nonetheless, it all goes down Saturday night at UFC 270 in the co-main event. Deiveson Figueiredo's taking on Brandon Moreno. It's going to be a lot of fun. Enjoy the fights. Thanks for checking out the video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.